This is Johnny with Tiger Bomb MMA, and tonight I'm going over UFC Fight Night Lewis versus Spivac, giving you my thoughts, predictions on the whole card. It's an interesting card, mainly because it's one I'm probably not going to watch, because it's at an ungodly hour, like 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. start time, I think, at least for me in my neck of the woods. I already got one bet pending on this particular card, but it's one of these cards that I'm just like, I should just stay the fuck away. Either bet certain dogs or just don't bet anything at all. Knowing me, I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably going to do something stupid, but we'll see. It's a good feeling, like going to sleep, waking up, and there's money in your account. Last time there was a card like this that was like dictated to the Asian market was back when Cyril Gahn was still fighting guys like the Canadian hillbilly, who I cannot remember at this time, with a mullet. Anyways, let's get started with the first fight of the night, which is Tatsuro Taira versus Jesus Aguilar. I don't know why I have this thing about, like, when I'm on camera, I cannot pronounce like Hispanic last names. I can say Jesus Aguilar. See, I can't do it. Jesus Aguilar. But for whatever reason, it's like, don't let them know. Don't let them know. But this fight is taking place at flyweight. And the odds, let's take a look what the odds are currently for these two. Actually, it's like ridiculous. Minus a lot. Minus 1,000 for Taira. Come back on Jesse Aguilar over here. Plus 650 as a pretty significant dog. I am one on the like cautionary side when betting guys like Taira. Yes, he is kind of young. He's like 20, 23 years old compared to the 26 in Aguilar. But everything is pointing in that minus 1,000 huge favorites favor. Like, he's got the height, he's got the reach, he's got the hype behind him. Not only that, he is very skilled. He's going to have the significant reach advantage, which is what I'm looking for. He's got a 7.5-inch reach advantage over Aguilar, who last we saw him in the Contender Series, kind of buck wild. This guy is in there to get a finish no matter what. He likes to get the job done on the ground. He's very good with the guillotine, but with a guy like Taira, he's very experienced for that young age. He's a very good grappling ace himself. The way he got that armbar on, what was this dude's name? CJ Vergara? Yeah, Vergara was impressive. The guy is slowly becoming a real significant threat in that division in flyweight. For Aguilar, yeah, he's going to have to do what he does best and kind of bum rush and go after him, but I don't think he's going to really amount to anything in this fight because the dude is very sloppy. Last we saw him in the Contender Series, like, the guy was very sloppy against the guy. What was it, Erison Ferreira? Like, he gave up a lot of bad positions in that spot. If he does that with Taira, who's a very good grappler himself, if he gets mounted, he is fucked. Like, he got mounted in that fight. He was able to fight out of it. He ain't fighting out of it against Taira. So for me, it's Taira submission round number 2. I think it's going to be like a rear naked choke, or at any point. It really is dependent on what Aguilar gives Taira. If he gives a mount, it's going to be an armbar or a triangle choke. If he gives up his back, it's going to be a rear naked choke or an armbar, just whatever Taira wants. I do think Aguilar is a fun fighter to watch. To be honest, I didn't really think he deserved to be in the UFC quite yet. Like, he needs to improve his game plan, right? Like, he's got a shitty reach for the division. Very, very limited reach, 62.5 inches. That's just absolute bananas for that division. So for me, it's Taira, but I don't like that bet. I don't like I don't like those odds at all. I don't even think it's comfortable for me to even consider parlaying the guy. I would say potentially take him inside the distance or by submission. I think submission is his best shot. I don't think he's going to be able to like TKO Aguilar. Aguilar is very scrappy, which is what I like about the guy. But in this particular case, it's almost like they're giving him like they brought him into the UFC just so he can lose to Taira. It's like they must have seen, like, yeah, this is a good fucking guy to lose to Taira. They keep giving him Hispanics just to beat up. I don't know why that is. Like, every single one of his UFC fighters has been Hispanic. He beat Candelario, beat Vergara, and I was going to beat another Mexican guy in Aguilar. So I've got Tatsuro Taira by second round submission for me. Next bout at middleweight, we've got Jun Park, the Iron Turtle, versus Dennis Tiuliulin. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Park. He's floating around like a minus 200 and then plus 170 for Tiuliulin. This one's interesting because I do like the dog in this one. I like Tiuliulin, but I'm not certain on it yet. This is, to me, I think Jung Young Park, he's overall better. He's got a better game plan. He's much smarter. He's got better grappling. His boxing's pretty good inside the pocket. The only issue I have is that he's got a significantly shorter reach by 4 inches. And Jung Young Park, I like his boxing in the inside, right? If he can get in the inside, he's got really crisp boxing, like in range, in the pocket. Tiuliulin, on the other hand, he spams a lot. Like he's definitely a berserker. I would say in the sense that he's not over swinging though. He's very measured with his berserker style. But I do like Tiuliulin for those dog odds. But personally, I'm not sure if I'm willing to take the money or the risk on him, just because like I know how to beat the guy, and that is kind of slowing him down, implementing your own paces, which is what Jung Young Park is very good at. He's very good at just kind of slowing things down. And if he's getting outgunned on the outside, which is what I think Tiuliulin's going to do, which would be like kicks to the body, which Tiuliulin does have very hard kicks. If he stays on the outside and then chooses his bum rushing in certain spurts, I think he can definitely get a win or even a knockout against Jung Young Park, who's very notoriously hard to TKO. He got TKO'd by Gregory Rodriguez, but fucking RoboCop is a beast. This one's kind of bugging me because I do think Park has a very interesting method to victory here. Like what we saw with him and that bum out of Kansas City, out of Glory, Joe Holmes, Joseph Holmes, he was able to kind of get on the inside and then take his back. Like he was able to like clinch up, reverse, take the back. And anytime he did that, Holmes just didn't know what the fuck to do. Tiuliulin, I'll give him credit. His takedown defense is getting better. His get up game is getting better. Fuck it. To me, it's like a dog or pass. But I do really think that Park finds a way. I think he's just the much more intelligent fighter. I do think if he can really push Dennis against the cage, the guy is deceptively strong, like what we saw against him and that clinch fest with fuck Eric Anders. I think he can really slow down Tiuliulin if Tiuliulin starts like getting off and if his cardio holds up to the third round, because I do think it's going to go over. Fuck, I think he's got a good shot. But to me, I think Jung Young Park is going to implement that game plan, the takedowns. He may not get every single one, but I think slowing down Tiuliulin is going to be the key to getting this decision victory. He's going to be outgunned, Park, that is, when it comes to like the length and the power from Tiuliulin. Tiuliulin's a really fucking jack dude for that weight class. But yeah, to me, it's a dog or pass. But pick wise, I'm going to go with Park on this one. Next bout. Ooh, this one's interesting. A piece of shit fight. We've got Jeong King Kim Fire Fist versus Mandy the Bum Bum. This one sucks really, really bad. The fact that I actually watched multiple fights of these two ladies, thinking that like taping these ladies, I'm like, oh my god, I think Mandy Bum's got a shot. And then I watch tape on her. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, well, Jeong Kim's gonna really have to suck in this tape watch, and I'm not expecting her to because there was like a lot of like fun fights that I remember. I'm watching tape and I'm like, oh shit, this one's gonna suck. But Ji Young King minus 165. No, that's not right. What am I looking at here? Ji Young Kim minus 265. Come back on Mandy Baum plus 225. I've always said it. Plus money, like in a significantly bad women's MMA bout like this one, dog or pass, really. This one's going to be really, really interesting because as bad as it looks on paper, it could really be a fun fight. Like this could be one of the fights that kind of wakes you up at 1 a.m. The what I've seen from both ladies is that they can be hesitant to throw punches. Mandy Baum is a kickboxer. Ji Young Kim is a kickboxer. I think Kim's got better hands. I think she's a better counterpuncher. She's a better striker, period, in my opinion. It's just that she doesn't engage sometimes. Like she kind of stays frozen in multiple fights that I'm watching, like her with Jocelyn Edwards, frozen. And then she comes alive. Her and Cachoeira, kind of frozen. Cachoeira was essentially letting herself get hit because she was kind of eating shots to give shots. But that was, other than that, Ji Young Kim wasn't really doing anything. She was just trying to counter. This could be one of those like neither girl wants to do anything. Each girl wants to counter. And it could be incredibly boring. Like the fact that Mandy Bohm lost to Veronica or Victoria Leonardo, and granted, I did cash a ticket for Leonardo just because I faded Bohm. it's embarrassing. Like the way she fought, like she did not look improved at all. Like she did not look like she fought out of out of Las Vegas, whatever the fuck, Extreme Couture. It just, is she not sparring with Sean Strickland to get her ready? To me, I think Kim wins this one just because she's fought the better competition, she's had better fights. But in reality, this could really be one of those horrible split decisions that could be considered a robbery. And I'd rather be on the safe side. If I am going to put any money on these two ladies, it's going to be Bohm. Other than that, I'm just going to pass. But I've got Kim by decision in what could potentially be a really fun fight if these two ladies decide that, hey, we're fighting for our jobs, because I think both of them have talent. It's just that they don't. I don't know what it is. They don't show it on the cage. They just decide that, like, I don't know what it is. It's just baffling. Like when you watch tape on these ladies, like outside the UFC, they're doing like, oh shit, they're knocking girls out and they're doing fun stuff. But here they're just kind of whatever. Funny enough, in this picture that I have up, Mandy Baum kind of looks like Joanna after she gets, like, Joanna's been cracked in the mouth. Let's move on. All right. One of the first tournament final fights for Road to UFC. This one's actually fun. Like taping these guys, and I'll be honest, like I was like, fuck, I don't want to tape any of these guys. Like they're nobody guys, right? Like who gives a shit? Is anyone going to bet on them? Pleasantly surprised. Like I watched the first Road to the UFC and it was fun, and then I kind of fell off. But like going back and rewatching these fights, I was like, oh shit, I was wrong. Like good thing I actually watched a bunch of tape on some of these dudes. But we've got Hyung Sung Park, Peace of Mind, versus this guy's middle name. I don't know if I'm going to get canceled for it, but Sunguk Choi. And Park currently is the minus 220 favorite. Come back on Guk Choi plus 180. This one's interesting. Watching tape on both these guys, clearly to me, it was Park. Park is the better fighter, more skilled fighter. I think he offers more to the table. Both Korean fighters. I also did, if we're being honest, I was looking at where they were from. Like sometimes you fade certain fighters from certain areas, but when they're from the same area, it can be a lot closer. Kind of like when Brazilians fight Brazilians, it could be a completely different matchup if it was the same type of fighter. If it was the same fighter, but he was an American, it'd be like a completely different matchup for that Brazilian. But in this particular fight, things I liked about Sunguk Choi, he has a very interesting pace. He implements a certain pace. He goes forward. He looks busier. He's definitely a busy fighter. Like he moves a lot. He moves forward. He throws punches. He moves his head. He bobs and weaves. He's, I don't know. He's a very entertaining guy to look at, but he's not necessarily doing anything. But it's very pleasant to see as a judge. You're like, oh, he's doing shit. Goes for takedowns. I don't want to say he's necessarily a smart fighter, but I guess his game plan of movement and such is particularly pretty smart. Like, but on the other side, Jung Sung Park, I think he's just a more measured fighter. He's more of an intelligent fighter. He's not going to waste energy. He's not going to do anything to like put himself in a bad position. He's smart enough to know when he's outgunned. In one of his matchups, he got dropped. But what I wanted to see is like how does he react? Like instantly after getting dropped, he tries to go for a sweep. He lays on his back. He doesn't panic. He doesn't put himself in a bad position where his back can get taken. He just lays there, reaches for the leg, and tries to like push him down to get a sweep. He eventually gets back up, and he was fighting a very, very good kickboxer in Top Noi. Top Noi rocked his shit. And then he gets up. He's like, fuck it, I'm taking you down, submitting you. And that's exactly what he did. He eventually got the clinch, took him down, got the back, submitted him. He finished both of his opponents. Granted, both of his opponents were kind of smaller, but to me, what I saw from Park was the better overall fighter, just more cerebral. Like he's got more avenues to win. Yes, Sunguk Choi does have some decent takedowns, decent top control, but doesn't seem to do anything with it. My biggest worry about this fight is if it goes to a decision, the judges could give it to Choi based on that. I guess the visibility or the vision of him looking busier. I think Hyung Sung Park is going to be landing the better strikes. He's going to be doing the better work, but visually it could look like Choi did more. And that's what I'm worried about. Like when you see a guy doing more but not actually landing, shit like that pisses me off. Like it reminds me a bit of Cannonier versus Strickland. Strickland's landing more often and with the better shots, but Cannonier is swinging harder and looking more busy. Something like that could happen here. To me, though, I have to go with Park on this one by decision. I'm not touching this one in particular because I think this one could be very close. But to me, peace of mind, Hyung Sung Park is the guy who's going to win this fight by decision. Next bout, this one's no debate. We've got two Japanese fighters, Rinya Nakamura versus Tshiyomi Kazama. And the odds are in huge favorite for minus 140, the hybrid Rinya Nakamura. Come back on Kazama is a plus 330. I'll give it to Kazama, right? Because as a big underdog here, like a moderate underdog, I don't think he should be that big of an underdog. It should be a little closer. Granted, I was expecting Nakamura to be like minus 1,000. He's got the wrestling background. The dude is kind of like a Japanese Henry Cejudo. Like the guy in his last fight in the Contender Series, he's like, I'm gonna go out there and bang, and he went out there and he got a knockout. Like he didn't give a shit. He didn't use his wrestling once. Shit like that's gonna get him in trouble if he tries that shit here. But the guy's very strong, very athletic, very very good wrestling. The opposite on the other end, Kazama, he's got a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and every time he got taken down, like he really did not accept the bottom position. He was definitely trying to sweep, trying to use his butterflies, kind of kick off, which I can respect. And I think if Nakamura's not prepared for that, it could cause some troubles where he could potentially get swept. I don't see that happening, though. I do think Nakamura's going to take him down if he's smart, which I think he will be. I think he's going to really respect his opponent this time around and go for the submission. He got a key lock, a Kimura in his last fight. I think it was a Kimura. Unless it was an Americana, whatever. Dude, I hate, just to let you know, I fucking hate the Americana because I was grappling with some fat dude once, and I'm like, oh, this will be fun, right? This will be fun. Fucker goes for like a hard Americana on me. I don't know how the fuck I like flipped him over. Like I kind of bridged out and got on top, and I was fucking pissed. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Why are you cranking so hard? I don't like Americanas. They suck. But yeah, I think Nakamura wins this one by a submission in the first round. If it gets extended, I'd like to see his cardio. It could be a bit of a sweat. I think for me, going with the Nakamura inside the distance prop would be the best option for me on this one. But there's one particular fighter that I saw that I'm like, oh, this guy might be really fucking good. And he's an underdog. So let's see if he's up next. He is up fucking next. Let's go. Next bout. This is I haven't been listing the weight classes. This is 145. The last one was 135. 145, we've got Saragih versus Jung Lee, the Korean Tiger. I like Korean Tiger. I like him quite a bit. He got multiple quick finishes in the Contender Series. He got an armbar and he got a TKO. Guy's very fun. He's very fast. He's Korean. The dude has everything to be in the UFC right now and be a fun fighter. But he kind of lacks certain things that he kind of reminds me of a certain fighter that just got released from Korea that was super fun, super entertaining, got fast finishes, but he didn't have the substance behind him to really stay in the UFC. And when watching these two guys fight, I'm looking at their records. I'm like, damn, plus 200 for Saragih, who's had 24 fights, 21 wins, 3 losses, compared to the Korean Tiger, who is a minus 250, 9-1. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, okay, why is he such a big favorite? I'm watching his tape first. I'm like, dude, this dude's fucking dynamic as fuck. This dude can get knockouts. He can get submissions. The way he got that armbar in the road to UFC, where he just kind of wall walked against the cage and just took the arm, was pretty impressive. But looking at his record, I'm like, damn, he's only been to a decision like maybe one time. And it's concerning because, like, what happens if this gets extended to the next rounds? Is it going to slow down? Like, not a whole lot of tape out there. And that decision was like years ago. So you can't really make a huge decision based off of that, how his cardio is going to hold up. As for Saragih, I think he's had the more difficult road to the UFC than most anyone on here. He fought a guy, who was his last fight? Was Kiyomi, what was his last name? Matsushima, who actually fought Gary Tonin. That was a fun fight. Like, technically, watching that fight, I was like, God damn, both these guys are actually pretty good. What I liked about Yi was that he surprised me, right? I was ready to fade this guy and be like, yeah, I think Korean Tiger was going to fuck him up in the first round. But watching back and watching him actually fight, I'm like, this guy seems pretty fucking smart. Like, this guy has very good technique. He can hang on the feet to an extent. Like, he's not the best striker, but he's pretty good on the ground. Like, he's a more of a submission type guy, right? The way he got that triangle choke on Machimu or whatever was impressive, right? This guy's very fucking good. It's ridiculous how good he is for not being in the UFC quite yet. Like, the way he was able to reverse and go for takedowns at pretty high level shit that I saw. I do think that although I'll admit it, he got knocked out by a guy who was in the road to UFC, very stubby, short guy with short arms. He got TKO'd by that guy. It does concern me, right? If his chin doesn't hold up, he can definitely get knocked out in the first round. I understand that. He can get finished in the first round, period. I get that. But if he doesn't, and if he extends this fight, I think he possesses the much better skill set than the Korean Tiger. And I think that if it gets pushed out to the late second round, late and definitely the third round, I can see Jali taking over, getting a late finish, or just completely switching over the fight to his favor. Where it's like, wow, the Korean Tiger's whipping his ass in the first round, but he uses too much energy. He gets clinched up after like landing a big shot. Zayi eventually takes over, clinches him up against the cage, gets him tired, takes the back, drops him to all fours, mat return, takes his back and submits him. Shit, I'd rather be in that side where what I saw, in my opinion, the much better fighter is Yi. Is just that you got to be careful, and he can't get fucking knocked out in the first round because this Korean Tiger, Jung Ji, damn it, I talk so goddamn much about this guy that I forgot how to say his name. Young Lee. He's very dynamic, man. Like, he's very fun to watch. And if he can knock out Zayi, definitely, I want to see him in the UFC. I want to see what he can do. He's going to have very fun matchups. But skill wise, Zayi to me is the much more skilled guy. I have a bet on him already, one unit at plus 200, and I think he can get it done. So I'll go with Yi by a third round submission. I think he's going to have to walk through fire in that first round. If he survives, it's going to be a very interesting fight, and I'm just going to be counting the minutes until he gets that submission in the third. So round 3, Yi by submission, rear naked choke. Next bout, this is the lightweight tournament final. We've got Anshul Jubli versus Jeka Saragih. This one is quite interesting, right? Because from what I'm seeing, even in my Discord, I have a guy, Herb Dean out here, you know what's up. He's debating himself, and I'm debating, like, what are we seeing here with these two guys? We got a 6-0 guy, King of Lions, Jubli, who is fighting out of India against Jeka Saragih out of Indonesia, plus 100. Watching both these guys fight and watching tape on them, you see shit, but you're not sure how to comprehend it. For example, Jubli, big guy, 6 foot tall, pretty good physique, good cardio. He doesn't do much to extend himself. Like, he doesn't do anything to like put himself in a bad position. He doesn't go balls to the walls. He doesn't throw any unnecessary kicks or punches, any spinning wheel shit, anything like that. He's just very composed, basic meat and potatoes kind of guy. Big guy, can get the job done. Saragih, on the other hand, much shorter guy, a lot of movement. He is 5'8" compared to the 6 foot of Jubli. He's going to have funny enough, I was expecting a reach disadvantage. Allegedly, they have the same reach, but I call bullshit on that. Saragih, he is 13-2. The guy seems pretty legit. It's just that, to me, he's fighting in the wrong weight class. He's too short for this weight class. But he fought a guy in the road to the UFC that was a -3-something favorite. What was his name? I think he was fighting out of the Korean Zombies camp. Wong Bing Ki knocks him the fuck out. I was like, I had to rewatch it multiple times. Like, he hit him so hard with the right hand, it was like a fuck you punch. It was like he laid him out. I was like, damn, this guy's got some power. And not only that, he seems to have some pretty good skills. Like, he's not just like oh, I'm gonna go out here and strike. He does things that I really enjoy. Like, when he finishes combinations, he finishes it with a kick to the body. Like, he always ends it with multiple strikes, like 1-2 kick to the body, or like overhand right kick to the body. Like, he does enough, and he moves very well. He's got the power definitely to put any dude's light out in the division. he also goes for his own takedowns. I saw this fucking dude lift dudes up that he much bigger than him and just drop him down. Not only that, his hero is apparently Conor McGregor, and the guy does have a piston of a right hand. He kind of sets it up pretty well. It's just that his reach disadvantage, like I see him having trouble. He had trouble in that last fight against what was his name again, Bin Key, where he couldn't really manage the distance, and it it worries me, right? Like it worries me because I actually am rooting for this kid to get into the UFC. I think he's going to be really fun if he fights at like 135, 145. But when it comes to Jubli, as much as he's not entertaining to me, he's not necessarily like the best fighter. I think if he implements a game plan where he stays on the outside and just kind of picks apart Saragih, he can definitely win this fight. But my money's going to have to be on Saragih just for that reason. Like his combinations are very crisp. Wow, shit. I'll take that back. They're not necessarily crisp. What I'm meaning to say is that they are impressive. Like he's a bit wild in there, but the way he sets things up, like 1-2 kick to the body, just always ending with a kick. I think that's going to look very good for the judges. And shit, if he doesn't get a knockout in the first round or second round, I do think he can get a decision. I'm going to go with him to get a first round knockout. I think eventually he kind of bum rushes Jubli. The thing about Jubli that I don't like is that he's very, very slow. He's stuck in the mud, if you will. And as Connor said before, at 155, they're stuck in the mud. I'm going to go with the very quick Saragih to get the first round knockout. I actually really like this kid. I don't know if I'm going to bet him yet. I might. Last I checked, they were like a pick'em odds in Bovada, which is where I have my money at. If I can get him at like plus 120, at one point I might take him. But at this very moment, like again, I worry about him being undersized. So I'll go with Saragih by first round knockout. But this one's an iffy one. It's kind of like a dog or pass, period. I wouldn't even bother with Jubli. Like as I mentioned earlier, when you see certain dudes from a certain area of the world, I don't even bother. Like I hate to say it, but dudes from India, they haven't really shown up. And when they have come into the UFC, like for example, what was his name? I follow him on Instagram. Shit, the Bengal Tiger. Whatever. He was in the UFC, fought a couple times. He just didn't look very impressive. He fought at middleweight. What was his name? Oh my god. Let me figure it out because it's bothering the shit out of me now. I even thought about him earlier. Like, I'm going to probably mention this guy in the video. What the fuck is his name? And his name is KB Bular. Like, I like KB Bular. Like, outside the cage, seems like a cool dude. Kind of rooting for the guy. Inside the UFC cage, it's like all of his energy got like sapped. I don't know what it is about Indian fighters when they fight in the UFC. It's just like they don't perform. Not to say that's going to happen here. Like, can't you use that metric? But sometimes when I see those colors, that orange, white, and green, it's not Ireland, I'm like a little weary. So again, I got Saragih TKO round number 1. Onto the main card, we've got a very good fight here against, what is this? Welterweight. I always forget that Kinoshita is a welterweight. He kind of reminds me of a lightweight. But we've got Yasuka Kinoshita versus Adam Fugitt. Currently, the odds have it minus 275 for Kinoshita. Come back on Fugitt, plus 210. And damn, man, looking at tape on these two guys, is Fugitt going to get knocked the Fugitt out? I don't know. Because like I really tried to justify like maybe Fugitt is the play because I get it, right? He's kind of a run of the mill type of fighter. You see him fight, nothing special. He doesn't do anything too particularly impressive. Like decent enough wrestling, decent striking. He's 8-3. But when you watch Kinoshita, you see something special, right? You see the knockouts. You see how good he is with the counter striking and the striking. The way you got that knockout in the Contender Series, that pullback, was it a left hand? Yeah, that pullback left hand was like, damn, he knocked the shit out of this kid. and it's like, is it a matter of time until Fugitt gets knocked out in this fight? Like Fugitt can definitely implement a certain game plan where he can really stifle Kinoshita, take him down, hold him. Like he uses massive frame. He's 6'1". I suspect he's going to be a much bigger guy here because looking at Kinoshita, he doesn't necessarily look like a 6 foot fighter. I think Fugitt is going to be a little taller than him. Like the odds, the height and reach, they don't seem to be accurate on Tapology. 77-inch reach for Fugitt, 71.5 for Kinoshita. Like to me, it's like which outcome am I going to take? Like Fugitt looked pretty decent short notice against Michael Morales, and Kinoshita, he fought a guy with similar attributes as Fugitt, like tall guy, lengthy, and he was having kind of a hard time getting really anything clean against, what was his fucking name? Ferreira, perhaps? It was Jose Luis or Jose Enrique Souza. He was having kind of trouble closing that distance. Like he was landing, don't get me wrong, but it was just like he wasn't landing super clean. With Fugitt, if he can implement a game plan like staying on the outside, and anytime he gets in close, clinches up, trips him, goes for takedowns, I think he has a really good shot of winning this fight, kind of stifling the momentum of Kinoshita, who's 6-1. And I'm pretty sure you've seen that video. It's on YouTube, his fight where he got a disqualification for not viciously curb stomping a guy, but holding onto the cage as he was viciously curb stomping a dude. It's like, it's kind of some bullshit. But man, as much as I like what I see from Kinoshita, and as much as I enjoy picking him to win this fight, I think he's going to win it by second round TKO. I don't think it's a smart move to put money on the guy yet. He's only 22 years old. He's fighting a 34-year-old guy. As much as like we can joke and fuck around with the guy's name, Adam Fugitt, he seems pretty live to me in this situation. Plus 210. I mean, I kind of want to take a shot on him, like maybe half a unit. I'm not certain yet, but I do think he's got the capabilities of winning this fight. It's just that like people aren't giving him a shot. Like, have you ever been in a situation like on Twitter where you're like, oh, I think I see something in this particular fighter, but then you tell somebody and they're like, oh, this guy's much better, blah, 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 blah. And then you kind of convince yourself that what you think is wrong. And then you see the fight happen and then you were absolutely right the first time. And then you put money on the opposite end because you were convinced. That's the kind of shit I'm seeing here. Like, I do think Fugitt has a very good shot against Kinoshita because, again, although Kinoshita fought a guy similar to Fugitt in his last fight with the length and reach, he did have trouble with it in the first 2 rounds. And say he doesn't get the knockout in the first round or two. Like Fugitt showed a pretty decent chin against Morales. He was eating some pretty live shots, but those shots were like from fucking far, right? And Kinoshita's got a very stubby reach. So to me, I do think Fugitt can win. It's just that as much as I believe in Fugitt's ability to win, I don't necessarily believe that he has the speed or, I guess, dynamic ability to stop a guy like Kinoshita. I do think Kinoshita will knock him out in the second round. But again, not confident enough to put my money on it. So I'll just stick to that as a pick. But I might consider just taking a Fugitt shot or a Fugitt shot on Fugitt. Let's move on. Next bout, this one's going to be interesting. Featherweight Choi versus Kyle Nelson. We've got the Korean Superboy versus the Monster. The odds have it in favor of the Korean Superboy. Minus 220 come back on Kyle Nelson, plus 180. I'll break this one down real easy. Neither guy is necessarily reliable. Choi, very talented, very quick, very fast, fantastic striker. The guy in the first round in every single one of his fights, he looks like he's in a specific fucking zone where he just can't miss, and he sees things and he catches you and he hurts you. The guy is a very fun fighter to watch. He's been away for 3 years on mandatory, I was going to say probation, on mandatory, well, essentially probation, mandatory military leave. And 3 years is a long fucking time. How is his timing going to look is what I'm worried about. Like, his style revolves a lot around his timing. Like, his timing has to be impeccable, which it usually is in that first round. Come the second and third round, this guy really slows down. His timing gets a little fucked up. And a guy like Kyle Nelson, I think he can take advantage. Kyle Nelson himself, he's not particularly a great fighter, but he's a very he's a fighter willing to fight, is what I'll say. He's very grimy. He's not necessarily had the best run in the UFC. I think his only win is against Polo Reyes. He had a pretty good round against Billy Quarantillo in the first round of their fight. After that, it was like, ooh. But the guy hits very hard. I think he's progressing as a fighter. He's very basic though, like very, very basic with his strikes, but he hits hard enough to make an impact. He has been working on his wrestling. I am worried about this fight tremendously because if Doo Ho Choi comes out in the first round and looks any bit of himself, I think he can definitely get Kyle Nelson out in the first round. If this doesn't happen, I think Kyle Nelson, as sloppy as he might be, has a very good shot at either finishing Doo Ho Choi late, because we don't know how good his chin is after, getting finished multiple times 3 years ago. Like, yeah, he's recovered from that, but shit, sometimes that button can't be unbuttoned. And yeah, this one's a really tough one. Like, to me, I'm staying the fuck away from it. I don't want any part of it because the under might not happen and the over might have, shit like that. I'm gonna go with Doo Ho Choi just because, again, Kyle Nelson, he's not good at straight shots. Like, he's not very good at blocking those straight shots, and Doo Ho Choi is very good at them. It's just that if Doo Ho Choi doesn't look anything like himself after 3 years, yeah, I don't want to be in that position where I have a ticket on him and he just looks absolute shit. And we have to remember this is taking place in Vegas, fucking late as shit. So I really don't know. I think the odds are that Korean Superboy is going to feel better at that time, just because, different time zone, being from Korea. Kyle Nelson might not. He's in a different time zone. Shit, I don't even know if that's going to matter, but I just don't like this fight betting wise. I rather just enjoy it, enjoy the violence. I really have a sneaky suspicion this is going to go over. I think Kyle Nelson might get hurt or dropped in the first round. He's going to fucking dive for legs and make it a disgusting, boring fight where he just keeps going for takedowns, and Doo Ho Choi just gasses out in the first round. And then the second round, like maybe the first minute, he looks decent, then he just gasses out completely after that. And Kyle Nelson just spams takedowns. That's what I'm worried about. And that's kind of what I think might happen. But to me, I'm gonna go with my gut based on what I saw on tape. I will say Doo Ho Choi, round number 1, TKO over Kyle Nelson. That's what I'm hoping for, because if option B happens, it's gonna fucking suck. Imagine me waiting until 4 a.m. to watch this fight, and it's absolutely snoozer. So yeah, I'll go with Doo Ho Choi, round number 1 knockout. Next bout, the overtrain, baby. We've got heavyweight bout Marcin Tybura versus Blagoy Ivanov. Minus 195 for Tybura. Comeback on Blagoy is a plus 165. This one to me is pretty simple on paper, and after watching tape, like Tybura, he's a very serviceable heavyweight, right? Everyone and their mother cashed on Tybura his last fight against Romanov, right? Either live or just like a little sissy bet that they put on him. Like, I think he might win this fight at minus or at plus 600-700 or wherever against Romanov. He has very much so proven himself to be, like, again, a serviceable heavyweight. Nothing special, but he can get the job done. Decent cardio, decent striking. Like, he can really ruin a guy's night that you might think, like, oh, he's going to go in there and get knocked out. Like, he's been knocked out multiple times before. And if you're not wise enough to really stop the zombie clinch of Marcin Tybura, because that's what it is. Like, he gets hurt and he's like, oh, he grabs you, and it's just like, recover, takes you down, and you're gassed out because you try to finish him. Blagoy's not going to have that issue. Really, neither guy is much of a finisher. Blagoy himself, definitely not. He's more of a tank. Like, he moves forward. He's got decent boxing. I'll give him that. Good sambo. That's his like call to fame as a sambo, is that he's hard to take down. He's a relentless guy, right? Like, he won't give up, period. Like, you might have him outgunned. Like, his last win was against Marcos Rogerio de Lima. De Lima looked fucking fantastic that first round. Then Blagoy punches him in the mouth, and then after that is like, oh fuck, Blagoy started taking over. Like, my worry about this fight is that it doesn't go over 2.5, because I think it will. I think it's going to go to a decision. Neither of these guys, as I mentioned, is a finisher. But if either guy has a chance to win, it's going to be Blagoy by knockout, right? I think Blagoy is, oh, fuck. How do I put it? He's not as bad as what people consider him to be. It's just that he's got some deficiencies that if he were to clear those up, he can be not a threat in heavyweight, but like oh shit, I gotta be careful with this kind of guy. Blagoy, as I mentioned, doesn't necessarily have the most power, but if he were to develop, say, like a very sneaky right hand or something, like something that could create that fear, like he has to start hurting guys. He has to work on that. Like, although his boxing's solid, it's nothing crazy, nothing to talk about. Same thing with Tybura. His striking's nothing to talk about, but he implements more kicks into his style. Like I think the teeps to the body are what's going to win Tybura this fight. Like notoriously, Blagoy is not the best at closing distance when there's like a kick up the middle. JDS did that to him repeatedly. Like he just kept him at bay. If you keep Blagoy at bay, and if you got a decent enough wrestling game, which Tybura does have, like he's able to get back up. Clearly against Romanov, he was able to really stuff takedowns. Although I think Blagoy is a much better wrestler than Romanov because he doesn't use too much energy. He's just more of a craftier guy. Shit, I wouldn't mind seeing Blagoy versus Ivanov. That'd be fucking cool. But if Blagoy, say, cracks Tybura, that's where I'm going to be fucking terrified. Tybura's chin has been tested a lot of times. Although I don't see that happening, it's just kind of in the back of my head. I'm a little bit worried. But yeah, to me, Tybura's going to win this one by decision. Lots of kicks on the outside, head kicks that are going to get blocked. You know, Ivanov's a tough bastard. He got stabbed in the fucking chest, and he never gave up on himself. One fight that I am interested in seeing in the future is Ivanov rematching Alexander or Volkov. Alexander Volkov. They fought in Bellator years ago. I remember watching that fight and just hearing about how he was in a coma, Ivanov, after getting stabbed. And I'm watching the guy, and I'm like, oh, I hope he wins. And he ends up getting submitted, I think, in the second or third round by Romanov by rear naked choke, or not Romanov, Volkov. But yeah, I think Tybura just kicks his way to victory on this one into a very boring decision. I'm kind of hoping Ivanov kind of cracks him just to kind of like, hey, fuck you, you know? But yeah, Tybura decision. Next bout, we've got Da Un Jung versus Devin Brown Bear Clark. Yeah, Da Un Jung minus 245 comeback on Clark plus 200. I'm one of these guys that I'm not gonna always say fade Clark. Like, yeah, he's a very fadeable guy, but to me, he's been earning my respect in these last few fights. It's just that he shit, every fucking time he does the same thing, I know he's gonna lose a fight. And there are certain fighters that he can take advantage of using this style. To me, he reminds me a lot of. I don't want to disrespect Devin Clark. So if you hear this, Devin Clark, no disrespect, but he kind of reminds me of the light heavyweight Tyron Woodley in the sense that he's very explosive, very big legs. If he lands that right hand, he could really put people on skates, knock them out. But he backs himself against the cage nearly every fucking fight. And when I mentioned he can take advantage of people like that, he has in the past. He took advantage of William Knight, where he eventually timed a takedown. I think he even finished him against when he was against the cage. And Menafield, like he just kind of got clinched up. He got clinched up by Menafield. He reversed him, landed knees. Like he's got a way to kind of stifle people. Not Da Un Jung. I don't think he will. I think Devin Clark's best shot is to try to knock out Da Un Jung, whose chin, I don't want to say it's been questioned a bit. Like, yeah, he got knocked out by Dustin Jacoby, but Jacoby's a much different fighter. I think Devin Clark, his best shot to knock him out is that like laser right hand where he just kind of blitzes him. But Da Un Jung, I think he's going to see that. I think he's going to prepare for that. And I think Devin Clark is going to fall to what happens nearly every single other fight. Like he gets finished against Cage. I don't want to say unfortunately, he didn't get finished against Ian Cutelaba. I kind of meant that in the ways that I had Ian to win by finish, but in the other sense, like the dude fucking fought his heart out, broken teeth, broken jaw, and everything. Like he came back and he didn't lose by TKO. He lost via decision. He just showed a shit ton of heart. But yeah, I think Da Un Jung catches him here. I think Da Un Jung being the bigger guy, he's got more ways to win. He's got that surprisingly devastating elbow that he landed on Kennedy and Zetriku that didn't even seem to land. If that phantom elbow touches this dude's fucking temple, he's done. But yeah, Da Un Jung's going to rebound with another decent knockout. I say decent because I don't think it's going to be like, oh my God, he knocked him out cold. Like Devin Clark, I haven't seen him knock out cold in a long time, but I think the accumulative damage he's going to eat from Da Un Jung is going to add up. And again, Devin Clark, if he touches Da Un Jung like clean, I think he's got a good shot to knock him out. But again, I think Da Un Jung's going to see that coming because that's all he really has is that like blitzing right hand. So to me, Da Un Jung wins this one by a second round TKO. I think Devin Clark is going to put himself against the cage as he always does. And Da Un Jung's going to be a little tentative, maybe throw kicks up the middle, like kind of paw at him a little bit, just kind of gauge the distance. Maybe a little bit of clinching. And then second round comes out, a much more comfortable Da Un Jung is going to eventually start finding his range and then eventually land something significant. I'm predicting a jumping knee to the body that's going to hurt Devin Clark, and then he's going to finish him up against cage with punches. Mostly because Devin Clark might be fainting or faking the takedown. And at that point, like Da Un Jung's like, all right, I'm going to time some sort of knee up the middle or something. So I'll go with TKO round number 2, Da Un Jung. We're already at the main event here. We've got Black Beast, Derrick Lewis versus Polar Bear, Sergey Spivac. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Derrick Lewis plus 190. Come back on Spivac minus 225. This one, like, shit, was supposed to happen some time ago. I think Derrick Lewis pulled out. I can't really remember. And yeah, now they're fighting again. This is going to be interesting because Derrick Lewis, as of late, we saw a picture of him on Twitter where he looked like he was losing weight, like he was jogging, he was getting in better shape. He's been talking about like how people are underestimating him and this and that. Like he seems to still want to fight. Like he still seems motivated, almost like he's more motivated than anything. That is a tricky thing when it comes to Black Beast because an unmotivated Black Beast, literally not training, got it all the way to a title shot. And now that he's like really trying, he's not necessarily getting the results that he's been wanting. He's been knocked out multiple times as of late. And to be fair, like he's not necessarily known as a guy who doesn't get knocked out. He's known more of a guy that like he knocks out a specific type of fighter and then he gets knocked out by a specific type of fighter. And if you know me, if you've been listening, you know what I mean by that, which I'll elaborate a bit later. Spivac, on the other hand, he's been having the momentum of a lifetime in the UFC. Like I remember listening to specific podcasts before I did my shit talking about how Spivac is just a fucking bum. He can't do anything. He sucks. And I believe that. I would fade Spivac every time, and sometimes it would pay off. Sometimes it didn't. One time in particular, it was against Tai Tuivasa. And I'm like, oh yeah, Ty's got this shit. And then Ty didn't have that shit. And then Ty got submitted. And I'm like, fuck, right? Or did he get TKO'd? Whatever. But Spivac, shit, how can I put it? When I would tape Spivac, I saw certain things about the guy that didn't match up what I was hearing from people. Like, oh, this guy sucks. I'm like, he's not necessarily that bad. Like, he has good qualities about him, but he's not necessarily the most athletic guy. He's just a very particular type of heavyweight that I think if he has the proper matchups, he's going to shine. And he just has to be very careful about other specific matchups. And that's kind of one thing that I've learned over the years is like, believe what the fuck you're seeing. Don't believe what you're hearing. You might hear, oh, this guy sucks. The line might say something, right? Like minus 200. But you see something and you're like, am I fucking nuts? Like, I see some really good stuff from this person. Why are they this low as a, of an opinion or as a betting underdog? Like, how come there's such a huge dog when I don't believe it? And that's kind of where I was with Spivac. I'm like, he's not the worst fighter, but I think you got to pick your spots with the guy. I don't know if this is the spot because both these guys have a weird dynamic when it comes to specific fighters that they lose to. Like, let me go and look at Spivac's record and I'll explain. Spivac in the past has lost to guys that are very explosive or that can really stop his takedowns. Like he's got a very solid jab, like 1-2 combination. I think his striking has gotten very good, and with the threat of the takedown in place, I think he can really get his striking off. But when he came into the UFC, he got knocked the fuck out by Walt Harris. Walt Harris being a very dynamic, explosive guy, also of a certain shade, if you know what I mean. Marcin Tybura, not of a certain shade, but he was able to kind of like really teach Spivac a lesson of like, I don't think you're ready to be the guy that like out wrestles guys here. Like he's a big body, and Tybura is a very skilled guy. Tom Aspinall, very dynamic, very fast. I like to think he's a guy of a specific shade. Black Tom Aspinall was just able to like rock his shit. A very fast guy, very dynamic guy. Then it comes to Greg Hardy, but Greg Hardy's a different color of black. He's kind of a mulatto, so let's not talk about him. Derrick Lewis. Let's talk about Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis is very much so black, very much so dynamic, very much so fast. He hits fucking hard. I think if he cracks Spivac, it's going to be an interesting night for Spivac, where he's going to be like, what happened? What time is it? Like, where am I? Derrick Lewis is kind of known to beat the shit out of wrestlers. Let's go back and take a look. Like fuck man, going back and looking at his Jack May, not necessarily a wrestler, but he's a bum. Guito Inocente, a wrestler. Juan Potts, wrestler. Victor Pesta, more of a wrestler. Gabriel Gonzaga, wrestler. Roy Nelson, technically a jiu-jitsu guy. He has a big right hand. You try to wrestle him. Let's just go with wrestler. Shamil Abdurakhimov wrestled the fuck out of him. Travis Brown, he's kind of a striker, but he had a vendetta against the wife beater. Let's see. He didn't fight Fabricio. Marcin Tybura knocked him the fuck out. He beat Francis Ngannou. I remember he knocked out Francis Ngannou via boredom. Alexander Volkov, he was losing that fight, but President Trump called him mid-round and said, you got to knock out the Russian, so he had to do it. But we look at the type of fighters that he loses to, like Sean Jordan, Matt Mitrione, strikers, right? Mark Hunt, striker. Cormier doesn't count. That motherfucker is a different level. JDS, striker. You just see the kind of guys that he loses to. He loses to primarily the strikers. Like even going back, like Ilir Latifi, he didn't finish him, but he beat him by decision. Blagoy, wrestlers. He's fucking used to fighting these wrestlers that try to take him down, try to like gas him out. He still comes after them. Alexei Oleinik. Come on, man. Oleinik really gave Spivac a difficult time. I had Spivac to win that fight, and Oleinik was really giving Spivac like a difficult time. Like, yeah, he ended up winning, and he ended up winning convincingly, but it was like, fuck, like, dude, get up, Spivac. What the fuck are you doing? Cyril Gahn knocks out Black Beast. Tai Tuivasa knocks him out. Sergey Pavlovich knocks him out. Now he's fighting a wrestler. I think going with my gut on this one, I do think Black Beast is going to be able to keep those momentums going, right? Where Spivac loses to black dynamic dudes and Lewis knocks out wrestlers. And I think he's going to be able to do that. I think he's going to be able to withstand the onslaught that is Spivac, although Spivac's wrestling is a bit different. Like he uses trips very well. He's able to slam dudes. I do think that Black Beast is going to just kind of bomb rush him, and he's going to make Spivac uncomfortable, and Spivac's going to take a knee. So I'll go with Black Beast by, I'm going to say first round knockout. It has to be that to me. If it gets extended, I think Spivac has a really good chance. Spivac's a big body, man. He's a really big body. But yeah, I think Black Beast is going to be very dynamic this night, and he's going to crack the shit out of Spivac. So that is my prediction for that fight. I haven't taken that shot yet, the plus 190 on Black Beast. But yeah, this could be it for him, right? If he loses this fight against Spivac, I think he retires. I don't know if he's planning on moving down to 205. That'd be a really bad idea, in my opinion. Like, really bad idea. But yeah, Black Beast, if he can get this knockout, fuck, I don't know what happens to him next. Like, he's 37 years old. Like, heavyweights do end up, fighting for a long time, like up until their 40s. I think if he can get right matchups, I think if he can get his confidence back up, I think he can really not necessarily start a run again, but like create a good portfolio of like ridiculous knockouts to like end his career on. And this is one of those guys that like I really do hope that he ends his career in a win, which is not something that happens in MMA. Like usually it's like you get knocked the fuck out, you get finished, and then that's it. You have to retire. Like it happens to the best of them, but I do believe like Derrick Lewis has one of the best chances to end his career that way. Like if he gets an up and coming heavyweight that he just says fuck it, I'm going out like with a bang, he gets it done. Similar to like Mark Hunt, who fought in boxing and he ended up getting a knockout in boxing. He defeated an up and coming undefeated fighter, and then he said, "I'm done." And that's what I'm hoping for Derrick Lewis, man. Just end it at a high. Don't keep thinking like, oh, I got it in me. But this is a really good test for him. And shit, like 37 compared to 28 in Spivac. Everything, like the odds clearly say Spivac should just be able to rock his shit, take him down, and beat him up. I don't think it's going to be that simple, man. Jiu-jitsu doesn't work on Derrick Lewis. Wrestling doesn't work on him. You can't lay on him. Dude's too powerful. And if he gets on the feet, he is going to go after you. Like he takes that shit personally, man. You take him down and lay on him like, you fucking bitch. Let's go. Swang and bang, baby. So I'll go with Black Beast to win this one. I think smart money is the under because of shit. I don't know if Spivac can really finish him in under 2 rounds. But I think under 2.5 might be the smart play. Like he can potentially get a submission on him if he can tire out Black Beast. But again, the only person that really submit Black Beast was Daniel Cormier, and that guy's on a different level. He's a fucking champ for a reason. But yeah, those have been my picks for UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Spivac. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. Follow the Discord, link below. Johnny from Tiger Bomb MMA, and I will catch you next week.